The idea for the Brian Cockerill book came about. I've been writing books now for near enough 3 years, and a lot of it has been from the true crime genre. And people, the names have been coming saying you've got to write a book about Brian Cockerill. I knew of Brian Cockerill probably from 15, 16. I grew up on the council estates in Middlesbrough. Everyone knew him. If they didn't know him, he was related to them. He was their uncle. But he was this name, if you like, that it was almost the law. And as I grew up, I'd heard more and more stories about Brian. Met him a couple of times, funny enough. But never really had a great deal to do with him. And when I started doing the books, people saying, "Oh, you've got to do Brian." I've heard a lot of negative stories about him. "Oh, he's a fully fledged crackhead. He's felt a bit. He's on oxygen, all this kind of stuff." Didn't know whether they were true. And I think it was just after so many times, so many people asked me, just Brian Cockerill, I kind of did a bit of, I inquired about it. And funny enough, I got given his number, and and so I wasn't sure whether it was, so anyway, I got in touch with him, nothing happened. And one day he rang me, he said, "Jamie Boyle," said, this is Brian Cockerill. I said, "No, it's not." He said, it is. I said, "No, it's not." I said, and then it suddenly dawned on me after about 15 seconds that actually his voice matched the Donald McIntyre's, the documentary, and kind of me and Brian have got together. I don't look down on him. He's told me some of the things, I said, "Look, if you've been on drugs, don't tell me lies," kind of thing. And he's been as good as gold. And every time I've sat with him now, I must have sat with him on that book alone for maybe 15 hours, 18 hours. But we've spent so much time in each other's company. And he has a good energy. He has, I'm not going to I'm not going to give anyone bull and say he hasn't did bad. There's people out there who knew him for what he was, and he was a gangland enforcer. He did some bad things. If you were an average guy like myself, he wouldn't bother. He's never hurt women or children. But in me now, I've got the book, all that book information on my dictaphone. I'm typing it out on a daily basis, and when I'm typing it up, it's certainly nothing to glamorise, because I don't glamorise books, believe it or not, even though I write true crime books. But he, in that world, really did get to the top of the tree. And it's only really been this last year or something, because that was one of the things when I was always said, "You've got to write Brian Cockerill's." And, when I first approached him, he wasn't too happy, and he wasn't best pleased with me because of what other people have said about in the books, even though it wasn't me. So he had his reasons. But then, over the years, I thought, does he realise what I could do for him? I could give him a platform. I could, because he's been a bad guy, and everyone in his generation, like your Peter O's, your Viv Grahams, your Lee Duffys, they're all pushing up flowers in cemeteries. They're all doing life sentences. For some miraculous reason, he's still here now, and, he's probably 2/3 away through his life. But as I said in the Lee Duffy documentary, imagine if Lee Duffy was here now with bullet holes all over him, telling the kids, "Don't make that same mistake I did." He'd have been a millionaire, he'd have been in films, or any kind of thing. But Brian Cockerill actually is still here today, and this is his vocation in life, if you like. We've been at schools, we've kind of, and this is what Brian Cockerill's going to do. And a lot of the time, he does it for free. He talks people out with suicides and all that. So that's really where me and him kind of began. The resurrection of Brian Cockerill, where that name came from. If there's any devout Christians out there going to get really annoyed with me, it's nothing to do with Jesus. It's nothing to do with Brian. Think he's better than Christ Almighty. What that name's about, and I chose it, was he was a man. Brian was the man about Teesside, if you like. The number one guy in that life. Everyone used his name. And if you've heard any stories, any negative stories of Brian Cockerill fallen to bits and been in pieces in the last 10 years, believe me, them stories are true, and much worse. So the resurrection of Brian Cockerill, is a man who was once dead, who was completely the most... I mean, Brian goes mad at me for saying this, but the one thing about me is I'm a realist, is he was a pathetic crackhead. He was scared of his own shadow. In 2012, 2013, he actually never left his house for 12 months. And after this, he never left his bedroom for 12 months. He had a toilet in his bedroom. After the 6 months was over, he used to go shopping at midnight because he looked a mess. You know, and so that thought-provoking, powerful story. I think he went... I mean, he's a huge guy. If anyone's seen him, he's 6'3", and he was 24 stone. I think these days he's about 21, 22. But he actually went down to something like 17 stone. And he looked grey. He looked like Skeletor from... You know, and he was a mess. You know, so that's the reason behind it. And even though I write books on your Paul Sykes, your Lee Duffys, your Roy Shaws, Dominic Negus, kind of pretty much bad guys. If anyone's read my book, you can relate to this. The one thing I don't do is glamorise it. You know, the big thing about Lee Duffy is he'd have only been 54 now. He should have had kids, he had grandkids. He should have been here. You know, Paul Sykes, that's been signed to be a film by Western Edge Pictures. But them two books, capitalise on a man who was the most difficult prisoner in the British system, who was a pathetic tramp who kids used to beat up and crack eggs on a daily basis. So Brian's, you know, it's kind of... You've read his Steve Richards book, which, you know, it's all about hard man. This book is about, you know, I kind of come in from 2005. Yes, there's 30 pages on Lee Duffy. You know, Brian says, you know, he gets a bit of, I think someone close to Lee Duffy once said, leave my dad alone, blah, blah, blah. But he said, hang on a minute. He said, Lee Duffy was a big part of my life. You know, how they met was Lee Duffy said to one of his friends, look at the size of that bloke over there. Look at the size of him. And his mate said, I bet you can't fight him. Lee Duffy, better I can. Went over, punched him. So Brian became friends with Lee Duffy because Lee went up and punched him in the face. And although Lee Duffy was only part of Brian's life for probably 3-4 months, he was a huge part. And you know, he's went on to be that first life that Brian had is being captured in that book. So I don't want to go and do that anymore. You know, but the facts of the matter is, and I've seen the paperwork, Brian's been pulled in for 7 murders. You know, he's obviously he wasn't convicted of any, and a lot of the time, to be honest, and I've seen the paperwork, as a lot of guys, Brian Cockerill was involved, police come in, investigate, he wasn't, and so on. You know, but he has, you know, there's so much that he's done, even from when this book kind of takes off from 2006, I think we pick it up from 2007 possibly. You know, so it's focused on the last 12, 13 years. But the fact of the matter is, Brian, I can't paper up the cracks. He's done some bad things. I can't make him look like Mother Teresa. But there's more good in him than bad. You know, I mean, I've kind of really got to know him well and have laughs and jokes with him. You know, he's a big cuddly teddy bear, but the facts, I'll talk to him and he's laughing and that, but the facts of the matter is, there's a deadly man that hides behind that smile. And, you know, I mean, even though he's 54, approaching 55 now, his best days are behind him. He literally would be still like wrestling a wild bear, you know, and you'd have to probably still be something special. But that part of his life, he's not interested in that anymore. The Resurrection of Brian Cockerill will be released via Kindle on February the 4th. That's on Amazon now. You can pre-order it. The price of that is £4.95. The paperback edition will be at a later date of March the 31st. You can pre-order that now. It's from Warcry Publishing's website. You can go into any Waterstones in Britain. There's 660 shops in Waterstones. They'll all have that on their system. There's a Facebook page, website, The Resurrection of Brian Cockerill. Get more information on there, but the best is yet to come.